Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Flaming Crescent Show TV show. I'm your host, Tyrone Perry, and today's members are Brother Salim Abdul Khalid, founder of the Flaming Crescent Society, and Minister Ben Willis, an assistant. Today's show is going to be talking about exposing white supremacy. And before we get started, Brother Salim, could you explain what the Flaming Crescent Society is all about?
Well, the Flaming Crescent Society, Brother Tyrone, was founded over 20 years ago in honor of Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz, known to the public as Malcolm X. And it was designed to uplift Malcolm's legacy and also his spiritual philosophy, and also speak out against the negative things that were destroying the fiber and fabric of the black community.
Oh, okay. That's great. All right, let's get into this. The first question is, what was your first experience dealing with racism? And I give that to you, Brother Ben Willis.
The first time I experienced racism, my grandmother and I went to Woolworth's department store. I was a little boy, and I wanted to go to the bathroom. But in going to the bathroom, I seen that there was a white-only bathroom, and a black-only bathroom, and a white-only water fountain, and a black-only water fountain. I asked my grandmother, what's the difference? She said, well, you just can't drink over there on that water fountain. And I thought, I want to know what that water fountain tastes like. You know, so that was my first experience of that. I still couldn't understand it until later. That was my first experience of that. But my grandmother, you know, she knew more about it than I did. And I guess I was too young for her to explain it to me. She just said, that's forbidden, don't go over there. And I just thought as a child, like, well, if she turned her back, I'm going to go over there and try to taste their water and see what their water tastes like, you know.
Interesting.
All right, Brother Salim, and yourself?
Well, I'll never forget a preeminent experience that I had with racism, white supremacy came through the police department, Chicago Police Department, where there was a black guy on a motorcycle on the run from the police, and me and some of our little childhood friends were out playing, and this brother, in trying to get away from the police, he ran up his bike into our courtway building, and police came from everywhere, and they started calling us names. They took out their billy clubs and started swinging at us, calling us black dogs, the N-word, and all kind of offensive attributes. We were shocked, had never experienced anything like that, and it left a lasting impact upon me. Another experience that I had real quickly was when I was in the United States military in El Paso, Texas for desert training, and me and some black troops walked into El Paso, Texas, and later on into Juarez, Mexico. And as we walked through this one Mexican neighborhood, everybody came out, stuck their heads out windows and doors, and told us that they didn't want any of the N word in their community. Those are some early experiences I had with racism.
Yeah, one of the first experiences I had with racism was when I was in high school. Me and some of my friends was driving, and the police pulled us over for whatever. I don't even know what the reason was.
Racial profiling.
They made us get out the car, searched the car, searched us, asked us where we was from, where we was going, and then let us go with no ticket or anything. And I was like, wow, you know.
That's interesting that you say that. And in both instances, both of you talked about the police. Now, and we're talking about exposing white supremacy.
Right.
Now, the greatest thing that ever happened to black people is for Donald Trump to be elected. Because he took the roof off of white supremacy.
Yes, he did.
He said, you can all come out now. You can all come out and be what you are. I'm gonna read some names, and I think you know, and the rest of the audience, the viewing audience should know. Philando Castile, no conviction. Terrence Crutcher, no conviction. Sandra Bland, no conviction. Mike Brown, no conviction. Rakita Boyd, no conviction. Sean Bell, no conviction. Tamir Rice, no conviction. Freddie Gray, no conviction. Alana Jones, no conviction. And of course, Trayvon Martin, no conviction. And it all had to do with unarmed black men and women being slaughtered
Shameful.
in the street when their parents raise your babies up and feed them and clothe them, and then they shoot them down the street like an animal.
Pitiful.
And they say no conviction. Now they got this thing conceal and carry, and so now a lot of black people feel that I got a gun. Basically, that's conceal and bury. Because if they're killing you without guns, what do you think they're gonna do when you got them?
Good question.
Yeah. Okay. So racism. What do y'all think the origin of racism? Where did it come from? Like, how did it first begin? Salim, I'll address you with that one first.
Well, I've done some historical research into this subject, and what I came across going back into ancient times, and one of the books that pointed this out was a book that I read called Race by the professor Thomas Gossett. And in this particular publication, going back more than 5,000 years ago, in ancient India, there was a magnificent race of black people called the Dravidians. And what happened was, in ancient times, European barbarians called the Aryans came down on these magnificent black people, and out of envy and jealousy, they concocted a plan or a plot to destroy and take over the land of these magnificent people. The first time they did it, they were unsuccessful, but what they did, they studied the spiritual philosophy of the ancient Dravidians, and they discovered that they had the concept of dualism. That is, the light was good and dark was evil. So what they did, using psychological warfare, they came up with a plan to convince the ancient black Dravidians that because they had dark skin, they were inferior, and because the Aryans themselves had light skin, they were superior. And over a period of time, the ancient black Dravidians became convinced of their inferiority because they had dark skin. Now, according to historians, this was the first ancient case of racism, but racism became further developed religiously with the biblical curse of Ham, which was put in religious scriptures by the rabbis of ancient times when they said that Ham was cursed to be a drawer of wood. That is based on the fact that he had laughed at his father Noah's nakedness. So therefore his descendants were cursed to be slaves forever. Another thing that contributed to racism was the images that we have seen of the Caucasian image of God. The Caucasian image of God throughout historical times, used based on religion, the idea that God was white, that Jesus was white, the angels were white. You see, we're taught that, for example, that devil's food cake is what? Dark.
Dark.
You see, in ancient times, the devil was black.
Right.
So they made us think that, by making us think that God was white, that gave a superiority image in the minds of Caucasian people.
Right.
And conversely, when black people were sitting in the church and the little black boy looked up on the church wall and seen this image right here of a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Caucasian image of God, he said in the back of his mind, well, God doesn't look like me.
Right.
Therefore, inferiority images in his mind was developed from racist religious images. Those are some of the origins that we find of white supremacy and racism.
Oh, that was deep.
Yeah.
Brother Ben,
I think the advent of racism and superiority came from Satan. Satan already had the mindset that he was just on the same par of God. So he thought everything else was inferior to him. So white supremacy has a satanic mind, and they think and they promote that. Now, white supremacy, it's not a few guys in the back room. White supremacy is a system. It's in your education, it's in your food, it's in your clothing, it's in your health care, it's in the judicial system. Those things are put there to put, and I'm just talking about black people. I'm not saying nothing about the Mexicans or Hispanics or Asians. Sure, racism, white supremacy is all over the world. But see, here's the technical part of this. They know, because they dealt with black people for 400 years, They know what they're up against. So there's always a part of white supremacy that they want to keep you down. And listen, I had an associate, and he's a white fellow, and he says, well, I'm not racist. He says, I don't have anything with white supremacy, and I think what was done to black people was wrong. And I say, yes, okay, I take that. But you benefit from it.
That's right.
See, you can always blend back in. I'll give you an example. Justin Timberlake, he's a pop star. He used to perform with this group called NSYNC. He was a pop singer, a white boy band, so to speak. All of a sudden, he's an R&B singer. How did that happen? So the Soul Train Music Awards, he's on the Best Dance Video with Usher, Chris Brown, and an old video of Michael Jackson. Now you got this white guy on the Best Dance Video on the BET Awards, and he wins in that category. So in the advent of that, Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson is performing in the Super Bowl. They do the malfunction, snatches off her clothing, her breast is exposed. They drag Janet out. Justin Timberlake blended back into white supremacy. He let her out there by herself, and she was destroyed. So they always can blend back in with the advent of white supremacy, and that's what's going on, and that's something that it's a satanic type of a thing. And Donald Trump making it, he makes it valuable for people to do that now. Look at Charlottesville, when they went out there and all those white supremacist groups was out there killing people. And I don't know why a few black people was out there. That ain't your fight, brother. You know, that ain't your fight, but you out there, you got your head kicked in, rightfully so, because you're in the wrong spot. Right. But they mowed and killed some girl in the car while they just ran her down. And what did Donald Trump say? Oh, there's some good people.
Right.
You know, they say it right there in your face. You know, they say this stuff right in your face. And brothers, I mean, I'm just telling you, brothers, there's ways to defeat that. I'm gonna let you go on, brother.
We go,
but
and
I know we're gonna defeat the white supremacy.
The next question is good. Is a good segue because the next question is about that. So, what can we do to prevent or end racism, Brother Salim?
Well, one of the things that Brother Malcolm said that could be implemented in order to help end the state of affairs that we live in under the system of racism and white supremacy. Malcolm talked about the importance of education. Both black and white people need to be educated and informed about what racism is, how it originates, and what it does to people. I have seen some Caucasians that sincerely try to eradicate racism from their hearts. In fact, when I was in the military, I met a Caucasian that was over the race relations class, and the knowledge and information that he learned about black history caused him to be very dynamic in his teaching to help rid other whites of racism and white supremacy. I myself have seen black people infected with inferiority complex that once I organized study groups and study classes, they became totally transformed and different human beings. Look at Malcolm X himself, reading his autobiography, you know, the things that he learned in the prison library and how it totally reshaped his image and made him just a stand-up guy that's known throughout history. Now, simply through educating himself in the prison library with certain black history books that he read. So I personally feel, based on my experience, that one of the best things that we can do is re-educate people. I even met a Caucasian Muslim that had been so transformed by the information that he got on Islam that he changed his name to the name of Bilal. And we all, anyone that's familiar with Islamic history knows that Bilal was one of the most illustrious heroes, black heroes, in Islamic history. So this is one of the things that can happen when people totally transform themselves through education and knowledge.
Brother Ben?
Well, you guys are going to have to ride with me for a while on this one. I feel that the black woman, who I believe is the greatest woman on the face of this earth,
I concur.
who has taken more. There's no woman ever in the history of the human family has gone through what the black woman in America has gone through.
I would agree.
She has had to go through slavery to see her children. We're talking about children being taken away and put in caves. When she first had her baby, they snatched her baby right up. Right. Some of them brutalized her in front of her face. She had to see her daughters get beat and killed, her sons get raped, then see her husband get raped and beaten.
Right.
This is what the black woman had to see, not for a couple of years,
right.
for 400 years.
Absolutely.
After they get to abusing her, when they wanted to abuse her, sexually abuse her, beat her, and destroy her self-esteem, then they tell her, breastfeed my baby. So she breastfeeding her child on this breast and the white baby on that breast. I can draw to a woman that I've had a chance to see. It was my great-grandmother. Her name was Betty Seals. She was pretty to me. She had this pretty dark brown skin with white hair in braids. They called them plaits at that time. And I thought, what a beautiful combination of color. And I would just stare at her. But as I learned later on, she was a slave. And my grandmother, my great-grandmother, one day while she's out there in the cotton fields, getting whooped and beat with the other slaves, she said, that's it. You're going to have to kill me. She took the garden hoe and swung it and chopped off the slave master's ear. And now she's running through the fields, and they're after her, and the slave master's screaming, and the other slaves are rushing her on. Go, go, Betty, go. And they hid Betty, my great-grandmother, out, and she said, send me to Chicago. And the slaves got her to Chicago, but she said, but my request is, please send my children to me. Because now it's a bounty on her head, but the next thing is to kill her children, which one of them was my grandmother. Whereas my great-grandmother sat there at Union Station not knowing what's going to go on, if she ever see her children again, well, miraculously, what God had it be that she did see them. Mm-hmm. And the advent of that, here I stand. Because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here. So now, so the thing is that with that kind of spirit, she don't know that her great-grandchild is talking right now. And my mother, she sees my frustration, I talk to her. And my mother said, get out there and use your voice. So let me show you the importance of the black woman.
Yes, yes.
She is the reason that will stop white supremacy in us. See, I don't care, brothers, if how much money you got, how much a degree you have, the whole world will make mockery of you if you don't protect the black woman. These guys, oh, when the police have, oh, let her go. Mm-hmm. Let her alone. We got this on tape.
You know,
if you're going to die, man.
I agree.
No punk on that.
I agree with you, Brother Ben. Let me just camel back off what you just said. Mm-hmm. There's a special conspiracy, before we move to the next question, there's a special conspiracy to dumb down and keep the black woman ignorant. Right. They know that the black woman is the mother of civilization. She's the first teacher.
Right.
According to Leakey and all the anthropologists, she was the first woman on the planet.
Right.
So they know by dumbing down and keeping the black woman focused on people like Nicki Minaj and all these old crazy TV shows that they got, Empire and all that there, that she will be brainwashed in not raising up the little black warriors.
Right.
You see, and other generation, you know, to help lead our race forward. That's right. The type of women that women should be emulating and duplicating is people like Rosa Parks, Queen Nzinga, Harriet Tubman, and others that came to wake us up and shake us up.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, the next question is, how How does racism influence and impact black people in society today?
Well, racism influences black people with the inferiority complex, as I pointed out. If we never see any images of ourselves, you know, for example, you know, a long time ago when I was a child growing up, we had on television Tarzan and Flash Gordon,
Right.
you know, and other white superheroes
Right.
that when you watch them, instead of you wanting to emulate and be satisfied with being yourself and anybody else black, you wanted to be white. You see, why do our people today dye their hair blonde and wear blue contact lenses? Because again, we've been infected or affected by images of white superiority that program us to be other than ourselves. So the effect upon black people with racism is developing inferiority complexes